Hello, welcome to my series of videos about the Dark Eye core rules. We are in chapter 3 and it's about character creation, and the next step in character creation is step 6, choose your profession. I think I should first note that profession, you don't have to choose a profession. It is not a system where you choose to be a warrior and then you are, for later in game, you are limited to certain warrior skills for leveling up or something like this. Profession is basically optional, and you can just choose and buy skills, abilities, disadvantages, advantages, talents as you like, and then you can label yourself a thief or warrior or what else. It's more regarding the game mechanics. There is no limitation. It's more about the background, because when you're a warrior, that is like a title, and you've been to a warrior academy and stuff like that, and this is rather something you should have in your back of your mind, and that for certain cultures, certain professions are unusual or just don't exist or are more common and likely or stuff else. Regarding game mechanics, choosing your abilities, you're pretty free to do whatever you want, and there is an extensive list of pre-made professions you can choose, which come with special abilities and talent values and all kind of things, but they are purely optional, and they are more to speed up character creation, especially when you don't know the system. If you don't know the world and stuff, then you can just choose one of the pre-made character professions, choose them, note down the bonuses they give you, and basically be done. You can still do some buy. Usually you have left experience points you can use to buy additional abilities and skills and talents, but you don't have to use a profession. It's only very convenient to choose one of the pre-mades. And I give you some examples of the pre-made professions in a later chapter. Chapter 6 will be about professions. I will show a few of them as example, maybe even skip through all the pages, because there are a lot of images. I think for every profession there's an image that shows someone of that profession. So the only thing where you really have a game limitation on profession is when you choose a spellcaster. You can just create a spellcaster. You don't have to choose one of the pre-made spellcasters, but every spellcaster has to choose I think it's a special ability, a tradition. Tradition simply is if you are a mage, educated by mage, if you were a scholar of a witch, if you were an elf, and then you can choose usually elf spells, witch spells, or magician spells. And for the priest, it's the same. You're a priest of a certain god, then you will be able to choose the liturgies of that god, and not the liturgies of the god that is opposing him or something, or another god. There are spells and liturgies that are open for everybody, and you can choose a few from a different tradition, from a different god, but not too many. Mostly you will be limited to a certain amount of, but you can get past that limitation when you learn an additional tradition. It's very expensive, it's very unusual, it needs some you have to meet some requirements, but then you can be a mage and learn the tradition of witches, and then be very capable in casting witch spells and learning them. Else, there is not much to say about professions. Yeah, there are these limitations given, but you can choose one. I'm not going into detail what kind of profession there are. Later there's a chapter about them, and that's all I have to say about choosing your profession. You don't have to choose one, but you can for ease of character creation. Next step is choosing advantages and disadvantages. You can see the list of advantages here and here, and disadvantages is the following list. Disadvantages and advantages are pretty random in what they do to your character. You can be disadvantaged would be you've lost an arm, you're very terrible, you roll more critical failures, you have a fear of something, you are not, your sight is limited, you are just pretty ugly, you are sensitive to cold or heat, you can't go out into the bright daylight, you are limited by some principles that bind you to act in a certain way. For example, when you are a priest, you often have to act in the sense of your god and you can't act against it, and when you do so, you get some modifiers on things you do because you acted against your god and you are like, you feel bad about it or something like that. And advantages can be quite the opposite. You are like, you're healing faster, you're regenerating astral energy faster, you're very tough to kill, you are a spellcaster, you can sense hidden rooms, you are immune to poison or to certain illnesses, you are very skilled in weapons, you are just a lucky guy and have more fate points than everybody else, you can fight with both hands equally well, you are very skilled in a certain skill, you smell well, you are noble or stuff like that. And the description and what they cost in terms of experience points can be very different. When you choose a disadvantage, you don't pay experience points, you get experience points back. The whole thing is not so much thought to make you more powerful or give you certain super abilities. It is more like making your character special, and especially for the disadvantages, to make your character more interesting, something to play around. It should also, you should always think about the benefit this gives to playing out your character, how it enhances play when you are limited, when you have to struggle in certain situations. And there are some limitations on what you can take. You cannot go all wild and build a completely crazy character. There is a limitation how many adventure points you can get by choosing disadvantages or something. I don't know off the tip of my head what the limitation here, but there was one in the older, the last edition of the rules, and I think there's also one in this edition of the rules. Next step is buying more stuff, especially your talents, your talent values, and you can modify your attributes again, your skills, your combat values. You can, this is more like a round-up stage, and everything works with buying stuff for experience points. And there are, you always have to keep in mind that there are limitations on how high your abilities can be, or skills can be, attributes can be. And this is the core. These steps I have now described are the core steps in character creation, and you don't have to take them mostly in that direction. You will just, when you know the system and you know the world, you will start with, I want to play this character with this advantage, and then you're gonna buy the advantage and think, and this skill, and then you buy the skill, and then you go back to, and I want him to really be strong and give him a high strength and distribute your attribute values, and just go back and forth. And you always have to keep in mind that you have limited experience points, so you might see that you have spent too many, and then you try to go back to a stage and take one of the abilities away, so you get back some experience points. You might choose an additional disadvantage or something like that. After that come the last steps. These mostly depend, that's step 9, and they depend in parts of the steps beforehand. For example, we have step 9, that is here. That's calculating your combat values. Everybody has every combat skill basically at a very low level. You have a combat skill ability of 6. Your value in every combat skill is 6. You have different combat skills for different kind of weapons. That is the list of combat skills, and everybody has a 6 in it. So you roll a 6 to attack and a 3 to parry, and you can buy more points. And you also get bonuses. You get bonuses from high attributes. You get bonuses from, I don't know, from advantages and disadvantages. I'm not quite sure. It's described up here. No, you get bonuses based on your attributes. And then, so this makes it a step you have to take after you've distributed your attribute points. So you know what bonus you will get based on your attributes. And with this bonus on attributes, you can go above the limitation for highest combat skill. Because the limitation for highest combat skill, it's 12 for an experienced character, only means the raw combat skill. You have a combat skill of 6, you can raise it to 12 for an experienced character. But then you add additional bonuses from your attributes. Next step is buying special abilities. Special abilities, they are often closely connected to talents, but they are not something you roll on. For example, you have an alchemy talent, and a special ability may be you are someone who knows a rare potion, how to create it, because it isn't only given only known, it's a secret and known to very few people of the alchemists. Or you are able to skillfully make fake documents, and you don't have a skill in making fake documents. You would roll on painting or writing. That would be the test to fake it, but you know techniques to fake it, to make something look old or something, or make something look like it comes from a different region, something like that. Special abilities are pretty random. They in their effect can be very differently. So for every special ability, and there are different special abilities for spellcasters and for priests and such. This is the list of special abilities that's available. These are the normal special abilities that everybody can take when you're not a priest and a spellcaster, and then there are some for spellcasters. This also might depend what you can choose here, what kind of spellcaster you are. And then there are special abilities for priests, and these are special abilities for combat. They're usually associated with the kind of maneuver you can make. You can, if you have the special ability, you cannot just roll attack. You may apply modifier to attack, and if you succeed, you get some kind of benefit from it. For example, you can make a feint. This would lower your attack, make it more difficult, but if you succeed, you will significantly lower the defense of your opponent. The last step is not really one. This is a step where you make sure that you don't spend too much experience points. That is also a step where you go back and forth and just try to even out your balance on the experience points you have spent, and that's it. And as the last steps, you calculate your base values. The base values, like hit points or your resistances or your astral energy, are based on certain attributes and skills and advantages and disadvantages. And here is described how you would calculate all these values. They're not too complicated to calculate in most cases, and there are charts that have already calculated part of the values. You just look what values you have, and then it will tell you what base values you have, what attributes you have, and it will tell you what base value you will have or what bonus you get. Last step is buying equipment. For equipment, everybody has the same number of same amount of money available for buying equipment. That is 750 silver coins. You can buy stuff from it. You can have more money if you're rich. That is a special advantage. You can have less money if you're poor. That is a special disadvantage. Else you're pretty free to buy whatever you want. The only limitation here is that there are some in-game limitations. For example, there are people who are not allowed to wear weapons or certain kind of weapons, and that would be a limitation. But in the equipment list, there is usually an indicated if a weapon is reserved for certain people, for priests, and this does not forbid you to buy this weapon or have this weapon at the beginning of the game. It will only get you into trouble when you're in a region where a law is enforced actively that would prevent you from wearing this weapon. And if you wear it concealed, you can have it. And if you're going through the Auckland, you can basically wear whatever you want, because the orcs don't care. They always kill you, unless you're orc. And next step is choosing or rolling your starting age. There's a table that lets you roll an age based on how experienced you are, what's your experience level, the starting experience level, and you can even roll here on this chart what day and what month you were exactly born. So last step is choose a name. And not an official step, but this is something very valuable. I like this a lot, because here's simply some questions that you get asked about your hero that help you to flesh out a story about him, why he goes adventuring, what he has been through before he started to go adventuring and such. This helps you to come up with a background story of your character. And yeah, that's the chapter for the character creation. The character creation is, especially initially, and if you don't know the system, it is really difficult. Later on, you just buy stuff. You know what you want. When you have a bit of experience in the world and in the background, and you know the abilities, then it is pretty easy to create a character. And don't have to keep to this order of steps you have to go through. You just buy this because you know you want it, and that, and then you look that your balance is even with the experience points, and then you have created your character. And for first play, I would advise to choose one of the archetypes that are given here. There are several pre-made characters typical for the world, like an elven archer or dwarven soldier, or a typical mage, and a witch, and a thief, and a soldier, no, a mercenary, and priest of the war goddess Rondra, a priest of the goddess of nature and herbalism and healing, and I don't know how to translate this. She calls people. Yeah, she is like a thief or something, and he is a Thorwalian, Torvala, one of the Viking people, a pirate kind of guy, and this is a barbarian woman from the high north, and priest of the god of death and sleep, Boron. And I would advise just take them, write down the values they have, and then play with these characters for first. Then you will get to know the mechanics, you will get to know the special abilities, what you can do. That is already complicated enough. If you have really no clue and no one who is with you to introduce you into this game, and after you've played one adventure, it will be way easier to go through character creation and build your own character. So that is character creation. If you have any questions, then feel free to ask in the comment section. I will try to answer it when I find the time. If you think I have explained something wrong, then please send me a note, make a comment, and if you see a question and you know the answer, then feel free to answer. So I have a little less work to do. Else, this is character creation. Next will be the chapter about species, where I will mostly be talking about the background of species and in general technically what they bring for your character, what modifications come with, rule-wise come with choosing a species or a certain race. So that's it for now. Bye.